Disclaimer: this content is only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. It all started on a quiet Thursday evening, the kind where the world outside feels paused, and time moves a little slower inside the walls of your home. I had just finished folding laundry when my husband walked into the living room with a strange expression on his face. There was a mix of curiosity and shyness in his eyes, the kind I hadn't seen in a while. I smiled and asked what was on his mind. That's when he said something so unexpected, I almost dropped the pile of clothes I was holding. He looked at me, almost nervously, and said, "Hey, can I ask you something weird? I want to practice kissing. I know it sounds silly, but I want to learn, properly. With you." At first, I laughed, thinking it was a joke. After all, we'd been married for years. But he was serious. He admitted that over time, he felt like he'd never really learned the right way to be romantic, not just physically, but emotionally. And he wanted to learn. With me. From me. That's how it began. A simple, honest request turned into something so much more. We weren't just practicing kissing, we were reconnecting. In the soft light of our cozy living room, in the quiet moments away from work stress, bills, and life's endless chaos, we found each other again. I realized that teaching him wasn't about technique. It was about trust. About knowing each other's rhythms, hearts, and fears. About creating something new from something old and familiar. Each kiss became a story. A rediscovery. I would guide him gently, sometimes laughing at how awkward it could be, sometimes just falling into the warmth of the moment. We weren't just husband and wife, we were best friends stepping into something innocent and sweet again. Like young love, but wiser. Deeper. I started noticing the small things, how he'd close his eyes just a second before mine, how he'd smile shyly after a kiss, how he asked, "Was that okay?" even when it was perfect. But then something changed. One night, as we were sitting close, hearts synced and breaths shallow, he stopped and looked into my eyes. "There's something else I want to tell you," he whispered. My heart skipped. The air thickened. What was it? Was it something good? Something that would change everything again? Before he could finish, a knock on the door shattered the moment. And that's where this story takes a turn. What do you think he was going to say? Would you have said yes to helping someone you love relearn romance? Has your relationship ever needed a gentle restart? Tell us in the comments. Drop a red heart if you believe in second chances in love. Vote in our poll: can romantic chemistry be learned or is it just natural? Stay tuned, the next part of the story will reveal what came after that unexpected knock. My heart was still beating fast as I stood up and glanced toward the door. That knock, it wasn't loud, but it felt like a break in the rhythm of something fragile and beautiful. My husband looked at me, his eyes filled with that same unfinished thought, but he didn't say anything. I walked to the door slowly, hands slightly trembling, unsure whether I wanted to open it or pretend I hadn't heard anything at all. That moment, the space between what we had been sharing and what was about to interrupt it, held a weight I couldn't explain. When I opened the door, it was just a delivery man dropping off a package. Nothing more. Nothing dramatic. But when I closed it again and turned back, I found him staring out the window, his hands clenched. Something was definitely on his mind. And yet, just like before, he chose not to say it. He smiled instead, that practiced, polite smile that I'd grown to recognize as a shield. And that made me wonder even more, what was he holding back? As the night went on, we cooked dinner together. The laughter returned, but it felt a little forced. He'd try to lighten the mood, making jokes about how bad he was at kissing and how I should start grading him. I played along, but my mind kept circling back to that look he gave me before the knock. That moment when his voice dropped and he said, "There's something else." I knew this wasn't just about learning how to kiss. This was something deeper. While we ate, I caught him looking at me in a way he hadn't in a long time, not just with love, but with questions. Doubts maybe. Or longing. He reached for my hand across the table, held it gently, and said, "I feel like I missed a lot of things before. I want to make it right now." It sounded beautiful, but vague. I asked him what he meant exactly, but he just kissed my hand and said, "You'll understand soon." That word, soon, has stayed with me. What was he preparing me for? Why now, after years of marriage, was he suddenly trying to reconnect in such an intentional way? What do you think he's not telling me? Have you ever felt like someone close to you was trying to show love and hide something at the same time? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you've ever had a moment that changed your relationship, tell us what it was. And don't forget to subscribe, the next part will reveal even more. That night, after we cleared the dishes and settled into our usual spots on the couch, I kept waiting for him to say something more. Anything. But he didn't. Instead, he leaned back, wrapped his arm around my shoulder, and pulled me close. It felt comforting, but also strange, like he was trying to distract both of us from the thing he hadn't finished saying. I rested my head on his chest, hearing the steady beat of his heart, and wondered if he was afraid of how I'd react. Or maybe he just didn't know how to begin. The next few days passed like that, quiet, calm on the surface, but with this undercurrent of unspoken emotion running between us. During the day, everything felt normal. We went grocery shopping, watched our favorite shows, shared coffee in the mornings. But every time we found ourselves alone, in those softer, slower moments, like when I'd catch him staring at me from across the kitchen, or when he'd hold my hand longer than necessary, I felt that silence pressing in again. Then one afternoon, while folding laundry, I found something in his jacket pocket. A note. Folded small, tucked deep. It wasn't addressed to me. Just a sentence scribbled in his familiar handwriting. "I hope I can still make this right." My heart dropped. What was he trying to make right? Why write it down and hide it away? That same evening, I decided to test the waters. I set up the living room the same way it had been the night he first asked to practice kissing: dim lights, soft music, the scent of lavender in the air. I wore the same comfortable shirt he always said I looked beautiful in. When he walked in and saw everything, he paused. "You remembered," he said quietly. I nodded and smiled. Of course. We didn't finish our lesson, did we? He kissed me again, this time slower, more deliberate. Like he was trying to say something without words. But I couldn't ignore what I'd found. So as we sat there, close and quiet, I asked him directly, "What are you trying to make right?" He didn't answer immediately. Just looked away. Then, softly, he whispered, "There's a part of me I never shared with you. I thought I could leave it behind. But it's still here." And just like that, we were back in the middle of it. No answers. Just more questions. What do you think he's hiding? Was it something from before our marriage, or something recent? Why write that note instead of just talking to me? Would you confront your partner directly or wait for them to open up on their own? Comment below with your guesses or share if you've ever had a moment like this, where love and mystery were tangled together. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see what happens next. The room felt heavier after he said those words. "There's a part of me I never shared with you." They echoed in my mind long after the silence settled between us again. I looked at him, hoping for more, but he just sat there, eyes locked on some invisible point across the room. My heart pounded. I wanted to ask everything at once. What is it? Is it about us? About someone else? But I didn't. Instead, I reached for his hand, hoping the touch would give him enough comfort to continue. He finally spoke, but his voice was low, uncertain. "Before we got married, I made some choices. Things I thought didn't matter anymore. I was wrong. And now I feel like I owe you the full truth." But I'm scared it might change how you see me. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to tell him that love means accepting every part of someone. But I couldn't ignore the weight in his tone. This wasn't just guilt, it was fear. And that made me afraid, too. The days after that felt like walking on a wire. Every conversation felt half-finished, every touch a little more fragile. He started staying up later, sitting outside alone with a cup of tea in hand, just staring at the sky. I'd watch him from the window, wanting to go out there and ask everything again, but something held me back. Maybe I was afraid to hear the answer. Then one night, while he was in the shower, I heard a buzz from his phone. The screen lit up. Just a name. No message. Just a name I didn't recognize. And suddenly, every thought I had been pushing away rushed in at once. Was this what he meant? Was this who he meant? When he came out, I pretended nothing happened. But inside, I was spiraling. I asked him casually, "Is there anything you're still hiding?" He paused, just for a moment too long, and said, "No. Just give me a little more time. I promise I'll tell you everything." But how long is too long? How much space do you give someone before it starts to break you? What do you think the truth is? Was it really about something from before our marriage? Or is it something else entirely? Should I trust him to open up, or do I follow my instincts? Tell me in the comments, what would you do in this moment? I didn't sleep that night. I lay next to him in bed, listening to his breathing, trying to match its rhythm to calm my own. My thoughts were a storm, loud, restless, impossible to ignore. The name on the phone screen kept flashing in my mind, over and over. It wasn't jealousy. It was the silence that hurt more than anything. We were supposed to be learning each other all over again, reconnecting. And yet, here we were, sharing a bed but hiding secrets. The next morning, everything felt too normal. He kissed my forehead before heading to work like nothing was wrong. But something was. I stared at the door for a long time after he left, the sound of it clicking shut echoing through the house. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to know. I went back to his phone. He'd changed the password. That was it. That was the moment everything shifted. He was hiding something big. And maybe it wasn't just about an old part of his life, maybe it was something still unfolding now. Later that afternoon, I did something I never thought I would. I called the number. Just one ring and then a voice answered, a woman. Her tone was polite but unsure. I didn't say who I was. I just asked, "Have you been in touch with him recently?" There was a pause, long enough to confirm everything I feared. Then she said softly, "I'm sorry. I didn't know he was still married." The ground slipped from under me. I ended the call. My hands were shaking. I didn't cry, not yet. I couldn't. My heart was racing too fast to let the sadness catch up. When he came home that evening, everything was different. I didn't confront him right away. I watched him. The way he smiled. The way he kissed me like always. Like nothing had changed. But everything had. There was a quiet thunder inside me now. I asked him again, "Is there something you're not telling me?" And again, he said, "Soon." That word again. Soon. But now it had a different meaning. That night, as we were getting ready for bed, I noticed something else. A folder on his nightstand drawer, slightly open. I didn't want to look. But I did. Inside were papers, documents. Not about another woman. But about him. His health. Appointments. Scans. A diagnosis. Everything hit me at once. He wasn't hiding love. He was hiding fear. And yet, that woman's voice echoed in my mind. I didn't know he was still married. So now I don't know what hurts more, the possibility of betrayal, or the truth he was too scared to face with me. What do you think is really going on? Was the phone call a misunderstanding, or is there more than one secret here? Could you forgive someone for hiding something this big? Let me know in the comments. Your thoughts mean everything as we try to untangle this story together. He stood frozen in the doorway when he saw the folder in my hands. His eyes dropped, and for a moment, it was like the whole world went still. I could feel the words building in my throat, but I couldn't speak. The silence between us was no longer about fear, it was about truth, and it had finally arrived, whether we were ready or not. He walked over slowly, sat down beside me, and took a deep breath. I didn't know how to tell you, he said, voice low and trembling. The doctor confirmed it a month ago. It's early stage, but they need to monitor it closely. I didn't want you to worry. I thought if I just stayed normal, we could enjoy these days without fear. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream. But when I looked into his eyes, all I saw was love buried under the weight of fear. I asked him about the woman. I had to. And this time, he didn't avoid it. She's a friend, he said. From before us. She went through the same diagnosis a year ago. I didn't know how to deal with mine, and I reached out to her. I shouldn't have kept it from you, but it wasn't about us. It was about me not knowing how to be strong. I listened. Every part of me wanted to trust him again, and yet, there was still a voice inside asking if that was the full story. But when he took my hands and said, I wanted to learn how to love you better, because I didn't know how much time I'd have to keep doing it, I broke. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming wave of everything we had been holding back from each other. We cried. We talked. We sat in silence. For the first time in what felt like forever, we truly saw each other again. But just as I thought we'd made it through the storm, I noticed something else, tucked in the back of the folder. A letter. Handwritten. With my name on it. Dated 6 months ago. And in it, he had written goodbye. Not just once. But many different versions, trying to find the words, just in case he never got the chance. What would you have done if you found a goodbye you were never meant to read? Tell me in the comments. Let's talk about how love survives even the hardest truths. I held the letter in my hands, the edges worn from where he'd folded and refolded, the ink slightly smudged like it had seen tears before mine. His words weren't perfect. They were raw, shaky, emotional. He had written about the memories we'd made together, the laughter in our small kitchen, the way I brushed my hair back when I was deep in thought. He wrote about how he'd fallen in love with me all over again during our kissing lessons. How he wanted to leave something behind, in case he couldn't say it out loud. I realized then, this wasn't just a letter. It was his heart, opened and written out one page at a time. He watched me quietly, unsure of what I'd say. And all I could do was wrap my arms around him. Not out of pity, not because I was scared, but because I finally understood everything. The awkward kisses, the long pauses, the sudden shift in him, it had all come from a place of wanting to feel close to me while quietly preparing for the worst. He had been holding so much alone. But now, he didn't have to. In the days that followed, we started fresh. No more guessing, no more silence. He brought me to one of his appointments, and for the first time, we faced things together. It wasn't easy. There were hard moments, but there were also quiet joys, the kind that come from knowing you're not alone in the fight. The woman he had contacted? She became a support, not a threat. I even spoke to her myself. She was kind, understanding, and relieved that the truth was finally out. As for us, something beautiful happened. We didn't just return to how things were, we built something new. Every kiss, every touch, felt different now. Deeper. More honest. It turns out, sometimes the most unexpected conversations, even the ones that start with, "I want to practice kissing," can lead to the strongest kind of love. Not every story ends with fireworks. Some end quietly, in the safety of shared truth. That's how ours did. In the end, love wasn't about grand gestures. It was about being there, even in the unknown. How did this story make you feel? Would you want to see a sequel about how they grow through healing? Let us know in the comments. And if you've ever had a moment like this in your own relationship, we'd love to hear it.